Hello and welcome back to the channel. So today I'm back again with another deployment video on how you can take your Django application from localhost to a live server. So this is one of the problems that I did have just when I was getting started. I really had these cool apps that I had in my local machine, but taking them live proved to be really hard. Not because there was lack of resources or anything like that, but just the nature on which how those resources were really hard to follow. That's why today I'm going to show you how to go live with your Django application. This is going to be a step-by-step process on how we can configure our server, how we can set up Nginx, and also set up Gunicorn for our application in production. So let's get right into it. So this is going to be a step-by-step process. I'm going to first walk you through the project that we have. It's a fictional website that I do have. It's called FitLeague. It has some few trainers here, and then we also have some products. So without wasting too much time, I'm going to go straight into my DigitalOcean account and set up a new project. So inside my DigitalOcean account, I'm going to come ahead here and say create a new project. Now project is whatever will house your droplet. So you first need to create a project, then after that you can now be able to create a droplet inside your project. So the project, I always give it the name that is going to match my project that I'm currently working on, but you can give it any name that you wish. The name that I'm going to use here is FitLeague. Then you can add a description. It's optional, but I'm just going to say FitLeague. Fitness website. Okay, select the purpose. Depending on the purpose that you're going to have, I'm just going to keep this one as a web application. Then you say create project. Okay, so you can add more resources here, but since I don't have any for now, I'm just going to hit skip now. And just like that, we have successfully created our first project over here. Then the next thing that we need to do is to now create a droplet for our project. So we're just going to come over here to create. Then now you add a droplet here. Let's just click on droplets. So that will create the droplets under your project. So create droplets, you can choose a region. I'm going to go with Sydney for now. Then you scroll down, the Sydney data center, choose the one that is closest to you. I'm going to go with Sydney. Then the next one is to choose the operating system, choose the image rather. I'm going to go with Ubuntu for this one. The version is going to be the latest one, that is the 24.10 64-bit. Then the plan that I want to choose here is basic. Depending on the size of your project and also the traffic that you're going to expect, always choose the right one. So I'm not going to go with the basic just for the demo. Then I want the CPU options, I want the disk type, I want to go with the SSD, the regular one. Then now the pricing over here, the higher the price, you're going to get more resources. For example, the $6 per month one, they will give you like 1 gigs of CPU, 25 SSD, and also 100 GB. So the one that I'm going to choose is just on the left hand side. I'm going to go with this $4 one just for demonstration. But when you're building something big, something that is going to be scalable, always remember to go with a plan that gives you more resources. For now, I'm just going to keep it the $4 per month. Then you can decide to add a volume. I'm going to skip that for now. Backups, again backups, I'm not going to add that. Then this is where you can add your SSH key, but for now I'm just going to go with the password. We'll come into that later, so I'm going to skip that for now. Then the next thing is to just choose the number of droplets that you want. I'm just going to keep it 1. Then remember to change this one. By default they'll give you a random name for your host name, but to just keep things clean, I'm going to give it a host name that is FitLeague. Then once you are done, everything is okay, we're just going to say create droplet. Just hit that button. Okay, so our droplet has successfully been provisioned. Now the next thing that we need to do after doing this one is that we need to add a domain name. On the far right, there's those 3 horizontal dots. Just say add domain and just make it bigger for you guys. So you're gonna click there, then you need to say add domain. I've already covered how to purchase a domain name and also add your custom name servers. So if you haven't watched that video, please consider watching it in case you are not sure how to do this. So you need to enter your domain name. Right now I'm going to enter my domain name, that is going to be fitlig.store. Once you have that, you need to choose the right droplet. For this case, it's going to be the fitlig droplet that I just created. Then remember to add the correct domain. If you miss here, you might run into some issues later. Then lastly, say add domain. Once you're done with the adding of the domain, we are not done yet. We need to add some 2 more records, like that is the A records, not the AAA records. We're just going to add the A records alone. So over here, all you need to do is to come to A records, then you need to add www, then you need to choose the droplet that you're going to use. I'm going to go with fitlig for this one. Then you say create record. So the record was created successfully. The next thing that you need to do is you also need to add at, then you choose where you want to direct it to. It's going to be directed to fitlig. Then you also create a new record for that one. So just make sure that your records are matching these ones. You need to have the A record, the NS record. These are the DigitalOcean name servers. These were created so we also have our name servers over here at the bottom. Then we also have our A records at the top. The first 3 are our A record, then we also have the name server records. So once we're done with this one, we're just going to exit out of this. We're done with DigitalOcean setup. The next thing is to now walk you through how we are going to deploy the project. So we're going to go back to the code. I'm going to explain everything step by step on how you can set up your project. So the first thing that you're going to go to is inside my settings.py. This is the project. As you can see the structure, we have my project. It's called fitlig. Then inside it, I do have a folder called deploy. That is what will contain all my deployment scripts and files, including Nginx files, the scripts that are going to run in deployment, and also systemd files. So I'm going to come into that later. Then we also have fitlig. That is the name of our project. It has all the settings, the URLs, configurations, and I do have 2 apps over here. The first one is home. We also have shop, as well as media and static files that will store our media files and static files. Templates are just for our templating. We have the home template. We also have the shopping templates. So that is it for the setup. It's easy, a virtual environment. Of course, the git ignore if you want to ignore some keys. For example, if you do want to ignore things such as the secret keys and everything, it's always advisable to put them inside a .git ignore so that you don't push them into your server. Then lastly, we have a deploy.all. That is a command that is going to deploy our application so that you don't have to manually type those commands inside our server, which can be a pain. Instead of starting to nano and sudo everything inside the server, we are going to do everything locally. We're going to push it, then when we run the deploy.all, that will execute all those commands inside our server. And then lastly, we want to go to the deployment section now. That is the most important part, and it's good to get it right here and you won't have any problem. So it's going to be a step-by-step process. Some of them you're going to do manually, which we've already done one step. The other ones will be done automatically using script. So let's look at the deploy. This is where I'm keeping all my deployment folders. The first file that we want to have is the Nginx. So we're going to use Django, Gunicorn, and Nginx. So inside my Nginx folder, I do have a folder that is called fitlig.configurations. You can just name it anything. It doesn't have to be fitlig. You can keep it as nginx.conf, fitlig.conf, or whatever your project is. So inside it, I do have one server block, as you can see. This is the server block that is going to listen to port 80 for that one. So it's listening to port 80. The server name is going to our domain name, that is going to be fitlig.store. We are also adding some security headers over here for our application. Then we enable G compression. If you want performance, always enable G compression. Just going to turn it to on, gzip vary to on. Then also remember to set a max upload size to 10 megabyte. Then we're also just setting up the favicon, the location there. Then we're also setting our static files. We're just setting the location of the static files as static, and remember to give it the full path. Remember ours was home Brian fitlig, then the name of our static root was called static collected. Okay, then it expires in 1 year. Access log, we're just going to turn it off for the access log right over there. So that is our static file configuration for Nginx. Remember, Nginx is what is going to serve our static file, so you need to give it the right alias name, home Brian fitlig, as well as static files. So Brian happens to be the user that we are going to create in a few in DigitalOcean. Then we also have the same setting, but now this one is going to be for media files. We're just doing the same thing. The path has to be the same as the one defined inside your settings.py. We also have location. This is where now the proxy happens. This is where Nginx actually forwards the request to Gunicorn. So that is how Nginx do communicate with Gunicorn. So whenever traffic comes from the internet, it will first hit Nginx. Then if it's a static request, for let's say the user is requesting for an image, Nginx will actually give a response. But if it's a dynamic request, right, if it's just a query or something, Nginx will forward that request, or it will proxy that request to Gunicorn, which will handle it just like that. So we also have some timeouts here. Proxy connect timeout is 60 seconds, proxy connect, and also proxy redirect, you're turning it off. So this is it for our Nginx files. Remember to add this one. This is what will now. So the next one, we have systemd. So in Linux, systemd is just a service manager that manages all our services. So I've created them inside my project folder here so that we can just copy them when we go to production, instead of starting to nano or vim into your server, which sometimes can be a pain. We're just going to define everything here, and then we're going to copy them using our script. So let's look what is inside our systemd file. I only have one for now, that is gunicorn.service, but you can have multiple. Let's say if your project has some background task where you need to use celery, where you need to use flower, where you need to use celery beat, this is where you define all your services. So right now I only have one to keep it simple. Then you're going to have the entire block over here. The first one is the description. This is just the human readable form of our project, that is fitlig Django app with Gunicorn. After, it's just to start when the network is ready. Then we have the user, it's going to be Brian. The groups, always wdata. And now this is where it's really important. You have to get this one right for your application to work correctly. We need to set the working directory to be home. Home is going to be the home of our server. Once we logging into SSH into our server, the Brian, we're going to create a user called Brian. Then fitlig is going to be our project folder. Then the next thing is that we need to set our environment variables for our project. We just set environment to Django settings module, then it's going to be fitlig.settings. So this one you're going to replace with your project settings. So if yours is maybe, let's say, an e-commerce shop, just replace it with whatever your project name is. And then the virtual environment, it's really important that we have this one right, the path to your virtual environment. So it's going to be home Brian. This is going to be the user that I'm going to create in a second. Then we also have fitlig, the name of the application, virtual environment, and bin. And then lastly, now we just start, this is the command that is going to start Gunicorn. So we just bind it to port 1000. We just bind localhost to port 8000. Then the name of the application is fitlig.wsgi.application. Remember to restart to always. Whenever it crashes, you can always make it restart always. So that is it for our two main important files, gunicorn.service as well as fitlig.configuration for our Nginx configurations. Once we have all that done, so inside my script here, I do have really important files. The first one is going to be the one that is going to install or set up database. So we are going to work with Postgres, of course. So you need to set up Postgres just like this one. So setting up Postgres, this is the command that's going to be setting up our Postgres. The name of the database, always add your database name here. The name of the user, your password, add just a secure password here for your database, so that you don't have to do this inside your server. I believe that just trying to run all the commands in the server can be a pain. So instead, this is what we're going to do. Just do them on our machine, copy them, and then we're going to run them using these scripts. So it will create a database for us, give it some permissions, and then echo out some response at the end. So after setting up the database, we are going to do the next thing, that is setting up services. I mentioned that we do have services. It's a service for now, it's not services, but we do have services, so you need to set them up. Setting up basically just means copying them from our project folder to copying them inside the systemd folder. So the only way that Gunicorn knows that we have a Gunicorn file is by copying it inside the etc systemd system and then gunicorn.service. Otherwise, it won't be able to know that we have a service that needs to be managed. So always remember to copy it. Just putting it inside our directory is not enough, so we need to actually tell systemd that okay, let's copy this one from our project folder that is called deploy systemd gunicorn.service. Then we are copying it inside the systemd system, then gunicorn.service. Of course, this is going to be done inside our server, so we're not going to do it locally. I'm going to show you that in a few. Then after that, remember to just restart it and also enable it. Okay, so there's a command over here for enabling and also starting it, really important. Then after that, we just have to set up Nginx as well. So just the same process. Nginx was inside our project folder, so we need to copy it inside Nginx sites available and then fitlig.conf. So you can have multiple sites inside your application. So site availables is what enables you to define all the sites that you have inside your Nginx configurations. After doing that, we as well need to add something called site enabled. So Nginx only reads from files that are inside site enables. So if you don't put it inside site enables, it won't be able to work. So Nginx only reads from site enables. So sites available just enables you to have multiple configurations, but sites available is the site that you're going to enable. You can also disable it if you want to stop your site from running. So that is it for our starting of Nginx file. It's basically copying it from our project folder inside the Nginx folder that we're going to install in our server. So once the symlink has been created, the next thing that you're going to do is to set up security. Of course, you need to set up the security. The first thing is that you're going to allow SSH so that you don't get locked out of your server. You also need to turn on uncomplicated firewall. You want to allow Nginx full, then you want to force enable. And that's it for our services and Nginx configurations, as well as the scripts that we're going to use. The next thing that we're going to do is that we're going to SSH into our server with the password that we just created, and then we're going to learn how to actually install the necessary software that we have. So let's go into our project over here, Fitlig. Then we need to SSH by copying this key. So once we have this one, I'm just going to say SSH, then it's going to be root. Let's log in as root first, then we'll create an unroot user after that. So SSH root @ followed by the IP address, Then are you sure you want to continue connecting? I'm just going to type yes. Of course I want to continue connecting. Okay, now this is the password that we created when we were creating our droplet. So it's going okay. So I've successfully logged in inside my server. So as you can see, the server, okay, once you've logged in into your server, the first thing that you need to do is to actually update it. So I'm going to update it by running some commands over here, and then I'm going to chain them together and also to upgrade it at the same time. Upgrade. So we're just getting an upgrade, an update, then also upgrading the server. So let's press enter, and that will install some updates. Command should be sudo apt, then we just say upgrade. Okay, so once we have that, now the next thing is to actually add a new non-root user. So it's just for security. I'm going to add a new user, so add user. So this is the user that I added inside my Nginx configuration, so that it won't be able to match. So also give the user a new password, because we're going to log in using the password that we just created. Then the full name, I'm going to call it that. The room number is optional, same to phone, home, other. Is the information correct? Of course. We've successfully added a new user inside our server. So the next thing that we need to do is to switch to that user, and we can just switch to that user using su, then that name of that user is going to be that one. So we have successfully switched back to the new user. Then also, once we've logged in as a user, the first thing that you need to do is to actually install the necessary software that you're going to use for our application. Things such as Certbot, Python, Postgres, Nginx, as well as Git. So just remember to install them as a non-root user and not the root user. So I'm going to run that command, then add my password. So that will install all those dependencies. So the next thing that you're going to do is that you're going to set up a swap memory. So what a swap memory basically is just a virtual memory that allows your application to run whenever you're out of the physical memory. So this acts as a safety net for your application. So we need to just run that command, and now let's check if our swap memory was indeed created. And you can see that we do have a swap memory that is of 2 gigs of memory. Then we also have the main memory that is 457. So that is really small. The 457 MB is super small, so it's always safe to add a swap memory for our application. So I think everything is done. We have done most of the stuff over here. We've installed Python, we've installed Postgres, Git, and everything. It's now time to clone our repository inside our project. So let's just clean out everything. So before we can clone our repository, we need to set up SSH keys for our GitHub project, as well as set up those keys to our DigitalOcean account. So we need to actually create this. So I'm going to run this command to be able to create the SSH key. Then enter the file in which you want to save it. I'm just going to leave that blank. Passphrase as well is going to be blank. The same passphrase is going to be blank. So I've gone ahead and generated my SSH keys for my project, added them inside my GitHub account as well as my DigitalOcean account. And now all we need to do is to come under project. Then I'm going to copy SSH URL. Then inside my project, if I just list out everything, or at least they print their working directory, inside Brian, that is where we are currently, I'm going to clone this project. Git clone, then that URL, we're going to clone it inside that. So once we have our project cloned inside our project over here, the next thing that you need to do is to actually activate a virtual environment. You can do that by running source venv bin and then activate, and then you can install all your requirements using pip install /i requirements.txt. Once that is done, now we can go ahead and start running our commands. But what I really need to do is to set up my permissions, right? Because you need permissions to actually read and write those folders. So without the permissions, we might run into some issues. So that's why the first thing that I'm going to do is to run a command to actually add permissions. Okay, so I've successfully added permissions to the files, as you can see, except for one that is for the home folder, because we are outside the home folder, so we need to do that when we are outside. So we have successfully added permissions for our folders that we're going to use, and now the next thing that we're going to do is to actually start our deployment process. So remember, in our project folder we did have a file called deploy, so that is the command that we're going to run. If you just leave this out, we do have deploy.sh, so that is what we're going to run. And what it will do inside our deploy folder, the deploy folder will basically deploy all by creating a new user. It will set up a Postgres database, set up Gunicorn, it will also set up Nginx as well as security for our project. So once we have that, we can go ahead and run the deploy.sh. So let's go ahead and run our deploy. Then that will copy all the files from our project folder, set permissions by just running this command. And now once we deploy again, let's deploy it once again, you can see that it will and Satbot was not found, so we need to install Satbox for it to run. We forgot to install it, so I'm just going to run this command to install Satbot. Okay, so once that is done, we'll go ahead and redeploy it again by just running this command. So Gunicorn, it will now request a certificate for our fitlig.store and as well as www.fitlig.store. It successfully deployed and it is now restarting Nginx. The application has been deployed. So let's go ahead and test fitlig.store. It's this domain is not .com, it's fitlig.store. That is what we are going to open a new tab and paste that there. And our site has been successfully deployed. This is good news because you can see that it's actually telling us that no such table shop product, because we haven't done our migrations. Now the next thing that we need to do is to actually do our migrations. So I'm just going to go back to my server here. I'm going to clear out all these errors. I'm going to clear out all these logs. Then all you need to do is to just run python manage.py. We need to create a super user first, but before that we have to make migrations and migrate. All of this can be done using a script, but I'm just going to do them manually. So python manage.py make migrations. Then we have a shop, we also have home, that's the name of our applications. Then we press enter. So no changes were detected, so we're just going to migrate. Okay, so we have successfully done the migrate. Now the next thing that you need to do is to actually create a super user. So let me clear out my screen, and then I'm going to run python manage.py creates. Okay, then the username, I'm just going to call it Brian. The email address, just call it Brian @fitleague.com. Then the password, just apply any random password here. So once the super user has been successfully created, the another thing that we need to do is that we need to run the collect static command. So that is really important for your static assets to work, and for your static assets to be correctly rendered inside your application. We need to run the collect static command. So python manage.py, then just wanna collect our static. Python manage.py collect static. Yes, so yeah, the static files has been collected, and now let's go ahead and check our application once again. I'm going to go to fitleague.store, and now you can see that all our icons are loading. If you go downwards, we all have everything loading correctly. Let's check out the admin. So super admin for that case, and our admin is also working correctly. Let's try, and then let's supply a password here. Yeah, so our admin is working as well, so everything went out correct. Now let's add some few products for our store. So I'm just going to call this one I'm going to add some products here. So I'm going to add way for image 1, image 2 is going to be that one. Yeah, so product description, I'm just going to add some then the price, I'm going to add that one. It's in stock, we have 100 in stock, is featured, let's set it to yes. Then let's save it, see if the database is actually working. So yeah, we already have one product in stock, and if you go to our visit our site inside a new tab, you can see that we have our whey protein that has been successfully rendered here. Let's go and test out a new one. Let's add a cable fly. Then I'm going to add some images for that one. The price for this one, I'm going to say 140,000. Then I'm going to save this one for now. So we have two products. Let's refresh our home page. Let's set is featured to yes so that we can be able to see it inside our home page. So let's refresh, and you can see that we do have our products in here. We have our cable fly, we also have our whey protein, our static assets, our icons are perfectly working. So that is it for this project. I just wanted to show you how you can deploy your application using Gunicorn in Nginx, and also set up a custom domain for your project. So just in case you're worried, like, okay, I'm not ready to buy a domain, I'm going to leave a link where you can actually get yourself a free domain from namecheap.com, as well as an affiliate link. Just have to give a disclaimer for that. That is an affiliate link where if you use my link to sign up, you actually get a free $200 credit, as well as I also received like I think $25 for that. So it's a win-win for everyone. Make sure to check it out and sign up, as well as the Namecheap link to get. And then let me know what you're building right now. Is it a portfolio that you're currently working on, or maybe a pet project that you've been? I hope this tutorial helps you. So in the next one, I will be looking into how we can actually create backups for our database, how you can set up backup, because database is the key for any business. And then maybe later we can do an M-Pesa integration for this project so that you can add C2B and SDK push payments for this one. So that is our up next for our series. We'll be looking at M-Pesa as well as database configuration. So that is it for today, and see you in the next one.